All right. And we're live. Welcome, everybody who is joining us tonight for our live stream. As always, I'm joined by Rod McDonald, CEO of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Coaching Federation, Certified Coaches Federation, and myself, Richie Rod. Rod and I like to get on here every so often and have a little chat about, what's been going on around the world and in our own lives, and hopefully try to inspire some of you to, like I said, lead better lives and, motivate you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a little while since we've been on, but, everybody's got so much going on in their lives. And we thought that, it's the end of the year. It's sort of our, if you want to call it, our year-end edition, holiday edition of the Rich Body live stream. And as always, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Richie. And
Thank you.
Just talk, two dudes showing up, talking about stuff.
Yeah. It's been an interesting year. There's definitely a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it has been interesting. And that's an interesting, important way that you put that, because a lot of people talk about how crazy it's been, how unprecedented it's been, and how insane the situation is, and however they feel about the different sort of parts of it. I find that it's actually more helpful to sort of neutralize our feelings about the situation. Just talk about how it's interesting, rather than crazy or insane, because that starts to program our thinking. When we say the world is going crazy, well, that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's negative, right? You're putting that negative thought into your head. But yes, listen, it is a crazy situation, and it's something that nobody's really ever dealt with before. But there's certainly a lot of opportunities to look at the positives and what you can take away from not only this crisis, but any crisis, right? I mean, this happens to be one that the entire world is sharing at one time, but and on any given day, at any given moment, we all have our own crises that we're facing. But yeah, definitely looking at it in a positive way, and what are the things you can take out of it, like any other crisis that might happen in your life, right?
Yeah. And you're right. I mean, nobody in our lifetime has had to deal with this. Obviously, if we go back before our lifetime to the Spanish flu and the turn of the 20th century, they had to deal with it then, a pandemic. But the truth is that we've had other crisis situations on a local level that different groups of people have had to deal with, whether it's New Yorkers during 9/11 or, people who live in Syria, and, different other situations in different places, the terrorist attacks in Paris and so on. There are sort of more localized crisis situations that come up. I think what's unique about this one has been how, for the most part, how global it has been as an experience, and how that's made it both more challenging, because it feels like there's nowhere we can go where this hasn't reached.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's a shared experience. It's a shared global experience that we will, and our kids will look back on, hopefully having, extracted some lessons from, but maybe not. I don't know. I mean, we're still in the middle of it, right? So it's hard to say what we're going to take from it.
Yeah, there's still, you know what? I think we are just in the thick of it, right? We're still so far away from getting away from it. And, a lot of the people that I talk to, that's at work or just in life in general, going about your day, it's a lot of it is a lot of negative towards it. And it's a scary situation, but there's so much left that we have to face. And I think if you're one of those people that have been in this negative situation since the beginning, I think there's still a lot of opportunity to look at the situation now and try to turn it around for yourself and try to take those positives out of it, because we are still a long way away from it. And what I mean by that is, if you think about it, how many times have you said, I wish the world would just slow down. I wish I just had some time. I wish I could stay home for 2 or 3 weeks at a time so I can get my stuff done at home, or I can take a course or read a book or whatever it is. Everybody's got that something, but I've heard every single person that I've ever talked to say something like that along those lines. Well, you know what? The universe just gave that to the entire world. It's in a negative way with, a virus, but at the same time, if you look at it and go, okay, well, this is my opportunity. The world has stopped. The world has slowed down. Stores are closed. Malls are closed. Restaurants are closed. I can't go out. I can't do anything. So too many people are sitting at home and being negative about it and going, okay, well, I don't want to go out because I'm afraid I'm going to get sick, and I don't want to talk to people, and I don't want to go around people. But yet they're still sitting at home glued to their screens, reading the news and watching the news on Facebook and all that kind of stuff like that. And the negativity just continues to go into their mind. But, what are you doing to better yourself right now? Because here's your opportunity. The world stopped. Are you taking a course? Are you online? Did you hire a coach to work with to get you better at what you're doing? Are you learning a new skill to get a new job when this is over? Because a lot of people have unfortunately lost their jobs, or are laid off. And then the other way you can look at it too is how many people are in jobs that they hate. Well, if you're laid off now from a job you hate, here's the perfect opportunity for you to learn something else so that you don't have to go back to that job that you hate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really, I think it's important for us to acknowledge and validate that, yes, it has been really, really hard for some people, whether it's financially or just, the financial sort of trickle down stress on families, and in some cases, obviously the sort of health issues for the people who have contracted this and had to deal with it. And obviously we care about those folks and the fact that they've had to deal with those things. I think that if you look at the statistics, and I don't want us to get into that rabbit hole of statistics about this and that and the next thing, but
yeah,
the vast majority of people have not contracted this yet, and certainly we either will at some point, or there'll be a widespread vaccine option for people if they choose to take it. But you're right. I mean, the majority of people who haven't had to deal with it directly in terms of an illness, what have they been doing? And I think that the thing that you and I and people like you and I tend to do is we tend to look at challenges, big or small, as opportunities rather than, showstoppers, meaning that they're going to stop us in our tracks. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity is to say, well, how can I get through? Certainly, that's one of the first things to deal with. How do I get through this situation? But then also, what's the opportunity in it? What's the learning that I can extract from it? And that's not a mindset that most people have, mm-hmm. because most people live day to day and week to week, not really thinking that far ahead, not planning that far ahead. And I mean, you look at you and what you've accomplished in your bodybuilding career, that takes, persistence and determination, not just to say, well, do I feel like going to the gym today or not? It's, I have to go to the gym today because it's part of a bigger plan, mm-hmm. in terms of what you're preparing to accomplish. And I think that this is our big wake up call, right? Like this is Mother Nature, or whatever you want to call it, grabbing us by the shoulders and shaking us and saying, hey, wake up, world. You haven't been living up to your potential, mm-hmm. largely. And this is your opportunity to do something about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's just, I every day I see so much. Like you said, Mother Nature is grabbing you by the shoulders and shaking you. Sometimes I wish I could take some people and do the same thing to them, because especially now I see a lot of people on Facebook, on Instagram, on whatever the social media feeds, and they're going on and they're talking about their view on what's going on.
Yeah.
And they write these massive long posts, and, and it is some people that have lost their jobs. And, I know some people personally like that, or people that are struggling. And, I see that they're taking the time to go online continuously and commenting and putting stuff out there and all that kind of stuff. And some of these posts are long and they're pretty good. So these people are actually good at actually writing, right? But they're spending so much of their time feeding into that negativity, the conspiracy theories, our government's doing this and the government's doing that and whatever it is. But sometimes I just wish I could just grab these people and go, hey, dude, like you spent at least an hour on that post because it was long and you commented and all stuff like that. So why not use that for some sort of a positive thing, right? Like clearly, if you like writing and you like writing posts like that, don't do it for a negative reason. Do it for a positive reason. Put a motivational quote out there. Put a video out there. Do something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
I think too many people are going down that negative conspiracy theory rabbit hole.
Yeah. You know, I think that what that speaks to is this notion that we all have a basic need for certainty in our lives. And that is, you know, the predictability of a paycheck and the predictability of, you know, the family that we have and the loved ones that we have, predictability of having a roof over our heads. And we're obviously very fortunate, you know, we're both in Canada, but in any of the sort of what they call developed countries of the world, that's kind of taken for granted, right?
Mm-hmm.
We take for granted the fact that we have roofs over our heads and indoor plumbing and, you know, central heating and air conditioning in the summer and whatnot. And the fact is that there's a lot of people around the world who, you know, aren't that fortunate, and that's their lives, right? That they don't have a roof over their head, or they don't have indoor plumbing, or whatever the case may be. And so it's sort of first world problems. I mean, when we talk about not just you and I, but, you know, the sort of population in general, especially on Facebook and other social media channels, is we're looking at it from this lens, or through this lens of being so fortunate to have all the things that we have, that we're not, you know, considering that, hey, it's not so bad that, you know, we get to stay at home and watch Netflix, or, you know, work from home and be able to go for a walk and walk 10 feet to, you know, to our kitchen to make whatever we want for lunch. Those are the kinds of things that people, as you said earlier, people wish they had prior to this pandemic. And now we're forced into this situation, and we're not actually being grateful as much as we could be for all of the things that we got to have. Mm-hmm. And I think that the opportunity is, I sort of feel there's sort of this dual slope that's happening. There's people who are succumbing to the stress and they're kind of breaking down because of the stress. And there's other people who are responding to the stress and getting better because of it. And we see that a little bit with the people who have, you know, built and are using their own home gyms because they can't get to the gym. People who are being forced to buy fresh produce and make their meals at home, and sort of rediscovering their home kitchen. And in some cases, integrating their kids into meal prep and things like that. And those are really good things, you know, and those are things that, you know, as you were alluding to earlier, that people would probably have wished they had the opportunity to do, but complained about how busy their lives were and why they couldn't do it. So the irony to me is, before the pandemic, it was like, oh, I hate my life. I can't do all these different things that I want to do. And now it's like, oh, I hate my life because now I have to work from home. And, you know, and there's got to be a happy medium, if you will, that where we can be grateful for what we have.
Yeah. It's definitely showing us what we take for granted. Definitely, you know, just jumping in the car and going to the coffee shop and meeting your buddy for a coffee, or going to the restaurant or having dinner or something like that, or just interaction with people. I mean, I can't even text you and say, hey, I'm coming over for a coffee. It's, you know, you're scared. Do I go? Do I not go? Who am I going to run into? So it's definitely showing us what we have had and been taken for granted for. But again, like I alluded to before, it's also showing us, like, hey man, there's other things going on in the world. Like you said, people that work out can't go to the gym. I'm putting in my home gym. Well, if I can't afford a home gym, now I got to learn how to do stuff, body weight exercises. I'm going to go for a run. I got to do different things. Cooking, like for instance, I work in the produce industry and I see it every day. You know, the sales of fresh produce are up tremendously year over year due to COVID. People are home, people are cooking. So, you know, the hope is that this continues, and it's continuing a new trend of people cooking at home, not only to just be healthy, but maybe there's people that cooked at home, but never had the time to sit and have dinner. But maybe now families are having dinner at 6 o'clock together every single night, and that's spurring conversations, and people aren't sitting on their phones, and the kids aren't in their bedrooms by themselves. So those are the types of things that we got to look at right now and go, okay, yeah, it's shitty out there and all this stuff's going on, but hey, look, I've learned how to do a full body workout without any weights, because there's no weights to buy and I don't have any money to buy any weights. I took up running. I learned how to cook with my kids, and now not only do we cook together, but then we sit down and we enjoy the meal together. And because we're home and, we're watching a movie together, kids aren't in their rooms on their phones. So when I talk about picking out the positives, that's the stuff that we have to continue to look at. And not only in this situation during COVID, but any crisis, right? So picking out what can I take out of this that's positive, that I can continue on with my life after the crisis is done. Because eventually every crisis has an end, right? But we never want to let a good crisis go to waste. So let's look at it and let's write down these things. Let's, start doing whatever it is you want to do. Start a podcast. I mean, this is the perfect time to start a podcast, especially if you're one of those people that likes to be online all the time, right? If you're online and you find yourself strolling through Facebook, through TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, and you're noticing, I'm spending so much time doing this. Well, you know what? If you love doing it that much, well, start a podcast or do a live Facebook, just like you and I are doing right now.
Yep.
That could turn into something, and you never know. You could inspire other people. Other people could see you doing that and stuff, right? So there's so many different things that you can take from those types of situations in life.
Yeah. And, I think at the same time, because I agree 100% with everything that you're saying, I think at the same time, there's probably somebody watching and listening to this, and they're grumbling about, well, it's easy for you guys to say that because your lives are different than mine. It's some man or woman, older, younger, I don't know who it is, that's probably watching this and thinking that somehow we're special. We're special superpowers or something that allow us to look at things with a more positive outlook. But the truth is, and I'll share first, and then you can share whatever you want after. But the truth is, we're not, impervious to the stresses. Maybe we deal with the stresses differently. Maybe we have some circumstances that are different. But virtually everything in our lives are within our influence, at least, if not within our total control. Mm-hmm. So, somebody who wants to be more physically active, well, they can make that choice, right? That is a choice. Whether they, pull up a YouTube video, for some body weight exercises, or they go for a walk, or whatever the case may be, that's within their control. It's within their control what they put in their grocery cart when they go to the grocery store. Now, a lot of people are going once a week, once every couple weeks, just because of restrictions and just not wanting to be out there. But when you take that thing off the shelf and put it into the basket, you're making a choice. Mm-hmm. Now, from a mental health perspective, from an emotional health perspective, sometimes we make choices that aren't the best for us, right? Whether it's a food thing or a behavior thing or a habitual thing. And sometimes we do those things out of, we go for comfort food because we're stressed and it makes us feel better for 10 minutes or whatever the case may be. But I think there's going to be an opportunity when we all have a chance to reflect and say, am I doing the things that I really can be doing, should be doing, could be doing to create more of the life that I want? And this is actually the same conversation you and I would have had a year ago before the pandemic, and we'll have 5 years from now, long after the pandemic. It's about figuring out who we are and what we want, and not only for ourselves, but for our families and for the communities that we're in, and actually doing something about it rather than feeling like, we're victims of the world, because we're all, there are certainly some people who are sort of born into riches and luxury, but that's not the case for either of us. We had to do whatever we had to do to work hard to create whatever we have.
Mm-hmm. Going back to what you said about everybody handles the stresses differently, and people might look at us and go, well, it's easy for you guys because you were just born with this ability to deal with the stress or handle it, whatever. That couldn't be further from the truth. I'll open up and I'll talk about the way I handle stress two different ways. There's one, and it depends on the situation and what mood I'm in. Sometimes, when I get stressed, or whether it's stress, anxiety, nerves, whatever it may be, the wrong way is I just kind of like push it down. I keep pushing it down. And I won't deal with it. There's a lot of times where I will not deal with it. I refuse to. I get stubborn and I just push it down, and I set it and forget, just try to forget it, out of sight, out of mind. And that's not good, because it's going to creep back up. Then there's other times where, yeah, you know what? I'm a pretty upbeat, happy, positive guy that, when something happens, whether it's stressful or, I get anxiety about something or whatever, I can overcome it just by having a positive attitude towards it. And like I said earlier, finding the positives in it and stuff like that, or, talking to a friend or something like that. But I had to learn all that stuff. And the only way I learned how to do all that, how to overcome it, by taking the positives out of it, or even pushing it down, because even pushing it down some days is hard, because some days it gets really, really heavy. So the only way I learned that was going through all the things. And a lot of the things that I have gone through, the financial stresses that I went through years and years ago, injuries that set me back, job losses, all that kind of stuff like that comes up in life, normal everyday things. I take the opportunity every single time something like that comes up to figure out how I'm going to handle this situation and learn different ways of handling it. Yes, maybe we were born with the ability to have that positive outlook on life, but I've only been able to enhance that as I've gotten older and as I've gotten, over different crises and different situations. So everybody has to kind of take a look at that and go, well, I know a lot of people that handle situations the same way all the time, and it's always negative, and it's always stress, and it's always, anxiety ridden and all that kind of stuff like that. And they never really deal with that. And those people need to, take a look at what's out there for help. For instance, you are my life coach. So, you and I have talked a lot about what we've done, what I've done and what I've gone through. I've taken courses through the Certified Coaches Federation that have helped me tremendously, because yes, I take the courses to become a certified life coach to help other people, but don't kid yourself. Those courses, I'm helping myself way more than I'm helping other people. But by helping myself, now I'm teaching myself. Now I can go out and talk to people about what I've been through, because just like you, when I talk to you and I've got an issue and you and I are trying to work through it, you help me by not only telling me what you've learned from reading in a book, but through your own life experiences. And I respect that more. Not to say I don't respect somebody who learned from a book, but you know what, if you've gone through it and the feelings, like for you, you did Ironman, not similar to, but training for a bodybuilding competition, training for an Ironman, it's brutal. It's grueling. If you haven't done it, it's hard to explain to somebody what you're going through mentally, physically, emotionally. Yeah. But, when I'm going through that and I'm talking to you about it and you're telling me through your experiences, that helps me figure out how to solve that problem. So by me going through these problems and teaching myself and becoming a life coach and helping other people, that's, if I can tell somebody how to overcome something because I overcame it and this is what I did, that is a tremendous help. So I think a lot of people need to get that, whether it's an influence in their life, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a life coach, and those people in my life have helped me tremendously overcome a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the truth is that we're not in this world alone, right? It's not a competition to see who can do the most on their own. If anything, it's about how can I create the life that I want for myself, for my family, for my community. And it doesn't matter if I did it through my own work or through reading something or watching something or having a coach or being part of a community like Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. At the end of the day, it's about, did I create what I want? And we actually should recruit as many resources as possible so that we increase the likelihood of success, right? And so whatever the endeavor is, whether it's bodybuilding, Ironman, building a business, writing a book, starting a podcast, whatever the case may be, we should all be pulling together whatever resources we can to make that successful. And why wouldn't we, right? Like, why wouldn't we actually do whatever it takes to increase our likelihood of success? Because otherwise it's like buying a lottery ticket. It might be fun every once in a while when it gets up to 40 million or 60 million or whatever, but that's not a strategy, right? It's not a strategy to be successful. Because it's probably the world's worst strategy to be successful. And the only thing that would be worse than that is thinking that you could sit on your couch and just hope, right? I'll give a 1/10 of 1% credit to someone who actually goes out and buys a lottery ticket, because at least they did something, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But having a coach is so critical. And you mentioned that I work with you, that I'm your coach. I have a coach as well. Almost every successful person has had a coach or multiple coaches at different times. And one of the cool things about Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise as a community is we not only have our own coach and we can be a coach to our clients, but we also have a community of people who care about the rest of the community being happy and successful. And so it's a tremendous opportunity to do that. Now, I don't want to turn this into a commercial for Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. So what I will say is, and this is for whoever's listening, not only on the live, but also the recorded after the fact, is find yourself a community. Find yourself a community of like-minded, lifelong learners who are committed to making themselves and the world a better place. Now, yes, I would love for everybody to join Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise. That would be my preferred sort of way to help people, because that's where I am, and that's where you are, and that's where we can help people most easily. But the truth of the matter is, we don't know what happens after we die. We might have certain beliefs, but what we do know is that we have this life that we have right now, and we don't know what the next day or week or month may bring, whether it's the pandemic or something else, a natural disaster, or just black ice driving in the middle of winter in Ontario. You never know what might happen. So we have a choice, and that choice is about saying, what do I want, what do I need, and what do I have to do to get it? Because this victim mentality, it's so easy for us to slip into it, because I was talking earlier about certainty, that sometimes when we become a victim, we actually get used to people taking care of us, and that feels good, but that's weakening us, right? And we can talk about the immune system and how you actually have to be outside to strengthen your immune system. Well, if you stay inside hoping to protect yourself from all kinds of viruses and bacteria, whatever, that's counterproductive, because you have to be exposed to the world to strengthen your immune system to have that happen.
We weren't meant to be inside. We weren't meant to be indoors. No. You look at our ancestors and the cavemen and stuff. We were meant to be out in the wild, running and hunting, and running through the forest because a tiger's chasing us. You were meant to do that, right? You're not meant to be locked up inside, indoors. I want to touch on something you said earlier about coaches, and one thing I get quite often, actually, whether it's in bodybuilding, because I'm still doing I still coach athletes and stuff as well, or in life coaching. It's people get surprised, and people are like, "Well, you have a coach? Why, you can't do this yourself?" And I get that quite often. And the one thing I always say to them, I'm like, "Listen, man, Michael Jordan had a coach, Kobe Bryant had a coach, Wayne Gretzky, Tiger Woods, they had coaches." And that goes to what you were saying about having that community, because it's not just having that coach, because Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player in the entire world. Did Michael Jordan, you look at him, did he need a coach? No, he knew how to play the game on his own, but he needed that community of coaches and players around him, because he isn't who he is without Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and all the, his teammates and stuff like that. So you talked about having that community. I can't stress how important that is, of having that community and surrounding yourself with not only people that can help you in terms of, I'll use you as an example. You're my life coach. You help me, but I also need people around me, like my friends, my coworkers. I don't surround myself with negative people.
Yeah.
My friends, if any of you are listening, you guys all know I shut people out of my life if I find that they're toxic, if they're negative and everything, because I'm too happy. I'm too positive. I've got too much going on to have somebody toxic in my life dragging me down. And that goes for family too. And that's not easy for a lot of people to say, but trust me, over the years, when you've gone through a lot of stuff, and I've gone through a lot, getting rid of those people out of your life and the positivity that comes with having a group of friends and people around you that are like-minded, that want to be successful, that are motivated, that are driven, that are positive. Then you add in your life coaches, your mentors, your teachers, all that kind of stuff like that. You're setting yourself up for success. And dare I say, there's no way you can fail with that amount of support around you and the discipline inside you to do what is necessary every single day. Reading, training, dieting, whatever it may be, whatever your goal is to get to. You encompass all that in your life, and there's really no way you can fail. It's success. Success is hard because it takes years and years of just honing your craft and just pounding every single day. But if you set yourself up the way we've been talking with, the right training tools, the right people around you, the right coaches, stuff, success becomes easy.
Yeah.
And you become stronger. And the more you learn, the easier it becomes. It's like you're in the gym. Well, the weights don't get lighter. You just get stronger. You get stronger and stronger, and you get more motivated. You get more success. You get more motivated to do more things. One of the things I struggle with, you and I talk about it. I talk about it with my wife all the time. I talked about it with one of my close friends yesterday. I struggle with doing things like this. I love to help people. I love to talk on, podcasts like this, to help motivate people, to talk about my struggles and my life and everything like that. Do I do it all the time? No. And that's my downfall. I want to do it all the time. I want to be on here every single night doing this stuff like that. But when it comes to this, for some reason, I don't know why, and I procrastinate about it, and I get lazy with it, and I'm not sure why. So everything else that I do is, I'm 100% go at work with my team. At the gym, go, go, go. With my family, go, go, go. For some reason, this part is, I struggle with it. But I continually try to get better at it by doing this, by, reading and trying to motivate myself to do it, and surrounding myself with friends that encourage me to continue to do it and be successful at it.
Yeah. And that's what it takes. And, going back to what you said about Michael Jordan, and all the greats in any sport, having had coaches, they often had multiple coaches, right? There'd be the sport coach, like Phil Jackson was for Michael Jordan. And then you also had the rehab coach or the nutrition coach or whoever the, different person would be, the mindset coach and whatnot. And to recognize that we can accomplish things without those supports, certainly, but why not get the knowledge, the insight, the experience from other people, whether it's because they've experienced it or because they know the technical knowledge or whatever the case may be, to help accelerate that progress. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, if you had a big lawn to cut, for example, in the summertime, and somebody said, okay, go cut the lawn, but they didn't give you a lawnmower and you didn't have a lawnmower. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to go start plucking the blades of grass, and that wouldn't be a very effective thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, if they gave you clippers or something, then you could get it done faster. If they gave you a manual lawnmower, you get it done faster. If they gave you an electric or a gas or whatever lawnmower, you get it done really fast. Mm-hmm. Why would you say no to those things? Why would you say no to a faster, easier, better way to get the job done? Mm-hmm. There's no prizes given for the most pain suffered, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get some recognition. And that's where the victim mentality is, this sort of shadow attraction for some people wanting to be able to position themselves as yeah, I can't because look at all the things that are against me. And they get a certain amount of support and soothing and a shoulder to cry on because of that. And maybe that satisfies some aspect of what they want, but they're always going to be in that state of not having what they want, but getting a little bit of, support.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, nobody wants to think that they're the ones that suffered the most. There is going to be suffering, to be sure. You're very familiar with that. I'm familiar with that. And anyone who's accomplished anything of significance in any aspect of their lives knows that suffering is almost a prerequisite of some level, of some amount. But it doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have to be everlasting. It can be something that is just part of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the opportunity that we have as coaches to work with people is to help people see the path where, yes, there's going to be some suffering, but maybe there doesn't have to be as much suffering.
Yeah.
Maybe there has to be the tough conversation, but doesn't need to be, for 10 years. Maybe we can be working on it for a year or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And I'll also mention, you were talking about the struggles that you've had with, doing this kind of stuff. The truth is that, and this is for everybody watching, that there is a mental state, there is a mindset that we can have whenever there's been something that we've been struggling with. We don't have to continue carrying that. So the technique to do that is, whenever we're talking about it, to say, in the past, I've had trouble with this thing, whatever the thing is, right? Uh-huh. In the past, I've had trouble going to the gym, or in the past, I've had trouble, reading books consistently. In the past, I've had trouble with my academics, or whatever, right? Whatever the challenge is that the person has. In the past, I've had trouble with that. But now, and going forward, I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
And it's a mindset shift, right? If we believe that we are permanently handicapped by some limitation, well, guess what? We will be permanently handicapped by that limitation. Yep. Our opportunity is to actually say, well, yeah, in the past that was an issue, but now and going forward, I'm making different choices, so I'm going to have a different outcome. Mm-hmm. And when we do that, then it's just possibility that's in front of us, right? It's not limitation, it's actually possibility.
Yeah. You said something on our last call, one word actually, and it stuck out in my mind, and I kind of been repeating it to myself over and over again. And that word was yet.
Yeah.
I'm not good at podcasting yet, because I would always stop there and I'd be like, I'm not good at podcasting. You know what? The posts I make aren't good. And I've started to, ever since our last conversation, I add that word in right at the end. And that kind of not only turns my mindset around, but actually makes me feel a little better. Actually, like, okay, hang on a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm not good at this yet. So yet means, what do I have to do to continually get better so that I am one day good at it? And it's funny because my book that I write in, after you and I got off the phone, I actually pulled up, this is my my journal that I write in. I don't know if it's going to be backwards in there, but it says, the best is yet to come. And I knew it was on there, but I didn't pay attention to it. But then after you and I talked and I looked at that, and I'm like, yes, the best is yet to come. No matter how good things are, the best is still yet to come. It can get better. And no matter how bad things are, the best is yet to come. You hear, things are always going to get better. So that has helped me, that one little word. And it wasn't even a long conversation that we had about it, but it just, one word stuck in my head. And now I find myself, when I say something like that, like, I'm not good at this, or, I can't do that, I just say yet. And then after I say that, my next step is, okay, yet means I still have time, I can do it. So what do I have to do? I can't just sit here and go, well, I'm not good at that yet, but not do anything to get better at it. Okay, I'm not good at this yet. So what do I need to do to do this? I don't feel that I'm great at doing this. So what do I need to do? I need to continue doing it. I need to continue doing podcasts. I need to continue going online. I need to continue reaching out and helping people and talking and doing things like this in order to get better at it. So I think that is a very powerful way to change your mindset, when you just add in that, I wasn't good at this in the past. I'm not good at this now, but I'm not good at this yet. And knowing that there's opportunity to get better at it in the future.
Yeah. And, what you're talking about, actually, we touch on a little bit in the CCF level 1 training, which is called neuro-linguistic programming, right? It's the brain and the language and the programming for how we process the incoming information in our lives and how we process and prepare the outgoing information in our lives. And that notion of beliefs, of saying, I am this way, or I'll never be this way, or I'll always be this way, or whatever the case may be, is a limiting belief, right? Mm-hmm. And so just that word "yet" is sort of that first step. So when you say you're not good at podcasting, that's like a limiting belief, right? To say that is how you are. When you say I'm not good at podcasting yet, suggests that there is possibility. And then the further enhancement is, in the past, I've believed I'm not good at podcasting, and now I'm getting better and better at podcasting, right? Mm-hmm. And that's true. And the people watching this live or on the recording can adopt that. And people think, oh, well, that's just like some wooey, like, fuzzy, fun talk or whatever. But the truth, it is so true that we are what we think, because our thoughts become our habits and our habits become our lives, right? Mm-hmm. And, so let me ask you this, Richie, because we talked a little bit about this last week, is how long from the first time you started exercising and lifting weights, I don't know the early part of your sort of endeavor with that, but like when you started to get serious lifting weights to, this year, how many years was that roughly?
I started working out in the gym when I was 14 years old. But, from the time I was 14 till the time I was about 28-ish was, training, but not with the mindset of competing bodybuilding. Right. But from the time I set my mind on wanting to compete and wanting to get there, it's been 10 years now. Yeah. Just a little, it's been a little over 10 years now. So it's taken me 10 years to get to the point where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So
let's do some math for the folks that might be, paying attention and might be math geeks. So roughly on average, both sort of off season, on season prep and all that, roughly on average, how many hours per week would you train over the last 10 years?
The average would probably be about an hour and a half a day, because in prep, it's usually about 2.5 to 3 some days. And then not in prep, it's about an hour. So I'd say about an hour and a half a day, 6 days a week. So I don't know, 6, half.
So that's 9 hours a week,
yep.
Right? Times. And would you train every single week of the year, or would you have a couple weeks off?
I take some time off after my show. So probably, I would say in total, about 10 months of the year. So 2 months are probably just wrestling.
So let's say about 40 weeks of the year, right? That's probably more than that, actually, but let's just say it's 40 weeks of the year. And times 10 years. So that's 3,600 hours of training. And, if you were to add in things like meal prep and, travel to and from the gym and shows and maybe some of the other sort of stuff that came as a result of that, photo shoots and things like that, it might even be, maybe wouldn't be double, but certainly at least 3,000 to 4,000 hours to get to the level that you've gotten to.
Yep.
And that's pretty phenomenal. So what I find almost funny, it's also almost sad, is that people will start something for like a week of like a couple of hours. So they'll put like 5 or 6 hours into something and then make a decision that it's not for them, or they'll never be able to achieve something, or, whatever, somebody else is better, so why bother, or, whatever the case may be. And it actually makes me sad to think about how many people whether it's bodybuilding or business or just healthy living or anything, the relationships, anything, spending time with their kids, how people give up on what's possible because they just dabble a little bit for a few hours here or there and don't fully commit.
Yeah.
So can you speak a little bit about, that notion of sort of embracing that commitment and sort of giving yourself to the effort so that you could eventually get what you wanted?
Yeah. Like I knew going in to, competing as a bodybuilder, what the time was going to be, what the sacrifices were going to be. So it wasn't something that I went into blindly. Mind you, there things do come up, obviously, that you're like, oh, wow, okay, I wasn't really expecting this. But, I knew what the commitment was, but I also knew what I wanted to achieve. And initially when I first started, it was just basically I wanted to do one show because it was a bucket list type thing. My one of my close friends was a professional bodybuilder, and he offered to train me. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I went through that entire prep that year. That was my biggest weight cut that I had to do. I started at 222 pounds, went on stage at 172. So it was about 50 pounds that I had to drop. And going through that prep taught me so much about myself. I actually won that show. That's kind of that was just the icing on the cake. It was my first show ever. It was the only one I was ever going to do, and I won it. But going through that taught me so much about myself. It taught me how I can break through my limits, how far I can still go after I think in my head, I'm done, I can't do anymore, how far I can still push. So the more I continued doing that, and the more I showed myself that I can push past this, the more I wanted to. Then it became kind of like a game in my head. Like how much harder can I push? Okay, I know I'm only supposed to, I should only do level 7 on the stairs. Okay. Can I do level 8? Yeah, I did level 8. Holy shit, that kicked my ass. But you know what? I wonder if I could do level 9. Okay, well, level 9. And then all of a sudden, you're just pushing yourself. Then it gets to a point where you won't let yourself go back. Once I've reached level 8, there's no way I'm going back down to level 6 because I know how many calories I can burn at level 8 and I'm going to stay there. So the more you achieve and the more you push, it's just like this. It just goes. It's like a snowball, right? It just goes and goes and goes and goes. So, putting in the time, putting in the effort and seeing the results in front of you, because I can look in the mirror and see the results every single day. That just kind of just fueled me and kept going. So the icing on the cake was winning that show. And after I won that show, I thought I was done. And that only lasted about 2 weeks. After the show, where I thought, okay, I'm finished. And that was in November. And then I found myself looking at the schedule for the next year, and I committed to doing a show in June, and I started all over again in January and did it again.
What year was that?
2009. So yeah, it was about 11 years ago that I started doing this, and here I am here. I mean, I'm still, I just finished, you know what happened at my last show. This one was supposed to be for me, my anniversary show, my 10 years of competing. So the only reason why I decided I wanted to compete in 2020 was because of that. Because last year, I thought I was done. I accomplished what I wanted to, and I was okay with it. I was cool with it. But I thought, okay, well, 2020 is my anniversary, 10 years. So I want to get out on stage and do that. So I decided to do that. Obviously, COVID, nobody anticipated anything like that, right? But I had, out of 2020, I had 3 months of the year where I had no gym, like zero. March, April, May, June, actually from 4 months, where I had no gym until I got some stuff here at the house, and I was able to use a friend of mine's studio and that kind of stuff. So I had to start this prep so far behind from where I would start my other preps. And I knew that it was going to be a real struggle, but I wanted to push. I wanted to do it. I wanted to push myself. So I did. I committed to it. I did it. And it was the hardest prep that I had in 10 years because I had started so far behind, to the point where when I was 6 weeks out, I actually was not even contemplating. I convinced myself that I was done. I wasn't going to continue anymore because I just couldn't go. I literally couldn't go anymore at the 6 week mark. And I was just going over in my head how I was going to tell my coach that I was going to quit, because he's a police officer, and I don't know if he's listening here, but he's one of those coaches that is on you. And I was just contemplating, how am I going to tell him that I'm going to quit? I ended up not quitting, went through the whole thing. And then the day of the show, driving to the show, I got a phone call saying that the show was canceled. The day of the show. Not a week before, not 2 weeks before. I had my car packed. I was driving. The show was out in Barrie. I was halfway there. I got to London. I was about 2 hours into my trip, and I got a phone call saying the show was canceled. So devastating. Absolutely. For about 2 days, I let myself sulk. You just don't know how to process something like that. You're not anticipating that. It's not like it was canceled 4 weeks out where you're like, that sucks, whatever. You're all you're thinking about on the drive is, okay, I'm going through my posing routine, going through my food, my meals, what I got to do, all that kind of stuff. And then it just gets taken away from you like that. So yes, I got down. I got depressed about it for a day or two and took the positives out of it. Like I always do. I looked awesome. I felt awesome. And the biggest positive that I took out of it was my girls, Jazzy and Maddie, they're 14 and 15 years old. They watched me go through this entire prep. They saw how hard I struggled. They saw me where, I looked like death and I couldn't move. And they knew that I was struggling and I potentially wanted to quit because they heard me talking to Jen about it. But I didn't. And I kept going. And those two girls are the reason why I kept going, because all I kept thinking to myself was, okay, I can tell my coach I'm going to quit. I can tell Jen I'm going to quit. She's still going to support me. But how am I going to tell these two girls that all I've been saying to them their whole entire life is don't ever quit. No matter what you do, don't ever quit on something. How am I going to explain that to them? What am I going to say to them? That daddy quit because he was tired and he just didn't want to go anymore. So that's what pushed me to keep going. And, I did it and showing them that I didn't quit was the biggest prize for me.
Yeah. And see, that's a perfect story of how you actualized what a lot of people look at and probably think, oh, it's easy for him. He's been doing this for several years. It's just another contest or whatever. But it's never just another contest, right? And because as you've told me, every prep's a little bit different. Even if the program was the same, even if the nutrition was the same, every prep is different because of whether it's the time of year or the circumstances in your life or stress from work or whatever the case may be. And what I take away from that is you had your girls, you had Jen, you had your coach, you had, to a certain extent, and I know this because we've talked about it, there's also, the lesser but still important aspect of the people who follow you and the community that knows you and sort of expects you to be there or knows because you've told them that you're going to be there. You post pictures about your sort of pre-contest, how things are going. And so there's a lot of accountability that's built into that. Some of it more powerful, some of it less powerful, but there's accountability. And that's one of the key things that we talk about when we're coaching people is, to have that accountability. There's self-accountability, but that's pretty vulnerable, right? So you discovered that when you were getting tired and you just weren't feeling good and your energy wasn't there like it's been in past years. There probably wasn't as much hunger because it was your anniversary, your anniversary event, but not like a critical one. Nobody sort of forced you to, or called you out or whatever to compete or, whatnot. So you had to find it within yourself. And the way to find it within yourself is to find it without yourself, which is with the people all around. Right. And your girls were key elements of that. Yeah. And when we can muster all of that support, then what seems impossible becomes possible. And you were ready. The circumstances didn't allow you to compete because the show itself was canceled. That was not in your control, but you were ready. You were on your way, right? And did you end up doing a photo shoot?
I didn't. I thought about it. I had one opportunity to do it. We couldn't find the right location because obviously gyms weren't letting you in, and the circumstances weren't right for me. And I wasn't in the right mind frame after all that happened. So I decided not to, and I was cool with that. I was fine with it. I mean, I was happy looking in the mirror and seeing my abs and being cool with that. I didn't need a picture of it. So
well, all the rest of us mere mortals are probably grateful for the fact that you didn't do a photo shoot because we didn't have yet another example to compare ourselves to. I'm not kidding, but I think the takeaway as we start to sort of wind down in terms of what we're doing here today, I think the takeaway that people should embrace is you don't have to do this on your own, right? Whatever the thing is for you, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, in relationships, in your finances, in your business, your career, whatever aspect of your life, you don't have to do it alone, right? So whether that means you have a coach, whether it means you make your spouse your coach in a sense, your accountability partner, use your kids in that sense, because it's a positive reliance that you're creating. Yeah. But we can all surround ourselves with people and a community, like we talked about, healthy, wealthy, and wise. We can surround ourselves with a community of people that have our backs.
Yep.
And it's amazing what we can accomplish when we do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, do even coming on and listening to stuff like this, two of us just talking about, and we're not, the thing I like about this when you and I talk is we're not sitting here talking about stuff we've learned in a book. We're talking about our own experiences and our own, going through life and what we've experienced. So we're talking about real life experiences that we've encountered on our own, right? So, even building a community like this, I would love for, anybody who's listening now or on the recording, if you hear it on the recording, shoot us a private message, myself or Rod. I would love to invite people onto our stream one day and have a group chat like this and have a group discussion about, overcoming and what you've done in your life. I'm sure people would love to hear about, what you've gone through. And sometimes you think, well, much like I think, who wants to hear this? Nobody wants to hear this. And, why would I go out and talk about this? But you never know who you're going to touch. You never know who's listening. You never know. It's just that one person that hears that one thing that you say. And, somebody else listening could reach out to you and offer support, offer guidance, offer help, something like that. Right. But building that community, like you said, is extremely important. So, you know what? I actually throw that challenge out there to anybody that's listening now, live or on the recording. If you guys want, I would love to be able to have anybody on one of our lives that Rod and I do, maybe even next week, join us and, come on and have a chat with us.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I think that this is one of those conversations that maybe we'll look back on. Maybe it's 6 months from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, and we'll see what came from this. And I don't know if we're going to end up with, 10 people watching or 50 or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 or whatever the case may be. And I don't know when that will happen, but that's not the point, right? The point is that we're both here to help people, to encourage, to inspire. And whatever way we can do that, it's because, again, it's not a contest, right? Yeah. Richie and I are committed to helping people be their best. And that takes a lot of different shapes and sizes and forms in different ways in different parts of people's lives. Yeah. And we're not exactly sure what the future will bring. There's no real certainty other than the certainty that we create. Mm-hmm. And that's something that, I think, I'll let you sort of sign off for us. But what I will say is, if 2020 was tough for you, and it has been for a lot of people, then 2021 is your opportunity to bounce back, right? And I think as a society, I don't want to sound too harsh, but as a society, we're pretty soft, right? In terms of, in general, our health and fitness and our resiliency and so on. With deep within that softness, there is a resiliency, there is an adaptability that I think many people have forgotten about and been disconnected from. Mm-hmm. And 2021 is your opportunity to fire that up again. And it doesn't mean necessarily stepping on a stage and doing a bodybuilding contest or doing an Ironman or anything, extreme like that. It could just be doing a little thing that you've always wanted to do, but haven't. And 2021 is going to be your opportunity to make that happen. You only have a few days left in 2020, and good riddance to 2020, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Absolutely. And the truth is, another year is going to pass, and then another year is going to pass anyway, whether you do it or not. So you may as well make it count. And I hope that you'll allow Richie and I to be part of that journey.
Absolutely. You know what? And with that being said, just like Rod said, I would love to be part of that journey. I would love to be able to, help in any way, whether it's, giving advice, whether it's just listening or, just putting out these podcasts. And, if you're somebody who doesn't want to reach out for help, there's nothing wrong with that either. We want, we're going to continue putting out these podcasts. I'm going to start putting out videos. I shouldn't say continue, but I'm going to start. And, and I hope that it touches you. It resonates with you. And like Rod said, good riddance to 2020. Look forward to 2021. And if we can be a part of it, I'd feel blessed to be a part of that. So feel free to reach out to Rod on his Facebook page, or Rod, your email address is?
Rod@certifiedcoachesfederation.com.
And mine is richie@richbody.ca. Get a hold of us on Facebook or on our emails. And we look forward to, coming back out here again next week. Again, the challenge is out there. If anybody wants to come on our live next week with us, please send us a message, and I would love to have you guys on. So thank you guys. Just over an hour here. I'm blessed to have you guys here and giving us your time. Thank you so much, Rod, our guest. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Take care. Bye.